Let's begin this morning with new comments from the Secretary of State about the state of negotiations with Iran. Short time ago, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was asked about a potential path to peace after the U.S. military completed an 11th straight night of attacks. He told reporters traveling with him in the Philippines that while Washington remains open to diplomacy, Tehran isn't taking things seriously. Listen.
If you make a deal, if you sign on to an agreement and then you violate the agreement's no longer valid. That doesn't mean you can't have a future agreement, but ultimately that future agreement will have to be judged on whether or not you're complying with the conditions. We remain open to diplomacy. We remain open to working it out in a negotiated way, but right now they don't seem to be serious about that.
Secretary Rubio's comments follow Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's news testimony about the cost of the war yesterday. He updated his estimates during what became a very tense hearing on Capitol Hill.
Senator, the estimate we have as of today is $37.5 billion.
And is the current activity, which we've been told about, the exchange of fire back and forth in Iran, an indication that that number is going to go up in the months ahead?
Some of that number captures additional O&M, mill pay, and other that would be anticipated through the fiscal year. So some of that anticipates what costs would be going out in the future as well.
CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins us now from Amman, Jordan. So, Charlie, CBS News is reporting that the actual cost of the war may be much higher than what Secretary Hegseth is estimating. Even with this updated figure, what do we know?
Yeah, well, Vlad, sources tell CBS News that doesn't include the reconstruction of the damage done to bases throughout this region. And we can't get a handle on that because of operational security concerns. But we know that Bahrain has been targeted. Kuwait has been targeted multiple times. Here in Jordan, bases here and radar centers have been targeted, too. So we're looking at $67 billion, that is to replenish supplies. So what he was talking about is $37.5 billion. And let's talk about those numbers. Those are huge numbers. $37.5 billion, that is to see this operation through September 30th. That's an advance on what we're going to, not necessarily how much it's already cost. This is how much it's going to continue to cost. About 2 months ago, I think back in May, there was an estimate then from Pentagon officials, official number, and that was $29 billion. So we've already seen 11 days in a row, 11 nights in a row, here anyway, of constant airstrikes from the United States. And this is after that pause, that ceasefire. Iran is on the attack, too. All of this is costing money, especially when it comes to replenishment. But what he was talking about is also personnel costs.
Charlie, Secretary Rubio's comments about the state of negotiations don't seem to bode well for a possible breakthrough anytime soon. What are people in the region hopeful for in terms of a solution? I mean, like you said, 11 straight nights of U.S. attacks.
Yeah, Jolene, look, we're in Jordan, and we're speaking to Jordanian officials and just members of the public, and they're concerned. Jordan kind of has stayed out of this for the most part until a couple of weeks ago, because the Iranians had been focusing their firepower on, like, Kuwait and Bahrain. These are established bases. But this is where 3 U.S. Soldiers were killed over the weekend. We're trying to figure out why, what happened. But a lot of that has to do with the frequency of Iranian attacks. Just this morning, they tried to launch, and actually one of them got through, missile attacks in Aqaba. It's a port city here in Jordan, nowhere here in Amman. A couple days ago, we had air raid sirens going on here. I think yesterday they intercepted 5 missiles, 3 drones. And what this is a trend. Iran is trying to test Jordanian air defenses. And when I say Jordanian air defenses, that includes American air defenses, because American air defenses would be responsible for the protection of U.S. troops here. So this doesn't look like any kind of pause. This is looking like an acceleration. And as we've been reporting for the past, looks like a military helicopter, for the past 11 days in a row, the U.S. military, that is a military helicopter, the U.S. military has continued to bomb Iranian targets around the Strait of Hormuz. So this is only going in one direction, as the U.S. military call it, an escalation ladder. The U.S. military trying to hit Iran away from the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranians trying to fire back. And again, that all exhausts the kind of munitions that are interceptors that take out these incoming Iranian munitions, and of course the outgoing airstrikes that the United States continues to launch.
All right, Charlie D'Agata reporting from Amman. Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate you as always.
Let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro. Aaron, good morning. The president just posted to Truth Social about the war in Iran. What did he say?
Jolene, good morning. The president wrote on Truth Social, quote, "From this point forward, anytime Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by missile, rocket, or drone, the U.S. will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to the country's capital city of Tehran." Now, this is something that the president has telegraphed could be possible this week if it looked like negotiations weren't necessarily going anywhere with Iran, which seems to be the case at this moment. But this would be a really big escalation from the U.S. side in this war with Iran. And the president has also said that something like this could be coming after it was found that two U.S. service personnel were killed in Jordan due to Iranian attacks.
Yeah, so this is some big breaking news, Aaron. The question, of course, is does this signal how desperate the president is to try and wrap this up, get the Iranians to the negotiating table? Because taking out civilian targets is normally under the Geneva Conventions, it is very difficult to make the case why civilian infrastructure should be targeted. But it does signal to the rest of the world and perhaps to the Iranians that the president is desperate to end this.
I mean, certainly it's been a headache in many fashions, politically, economically, for the president in this second term. And you're right in that these sorts of attacks could be seen as a war crime. And this whole conversation actually happened closer to April of this year when President Trump first made these threats to strike Iran's civilian infrastructure. You saw the argument from the White House there being that Iran's Revolutionary Guard operates at these power plants, at these types of infrastructure. But it would certainly be a big escalation and would dissuade Iran, really, from coming to the negotiation table, at least because they've publicly conveyed that they think they are coming out of this war winners in terms of showing their resilience.
And we're also tracking another story out of Washington this morning. President Trump reportedly reaching a nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia. What do you know about that at this hour?
We have reached out to the White House for confirmation, but it mainly stems from a Wall Street Journal report that there has been an agreement with Saudi Arabia for the U.S. to help build their civilian nuclear program and open the door for them to enrich uranium, which could ostensibly be used to build a nuclear weapon. But this report says that U.S. officials have conditions that it would require a 2-year study, a joint study between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia to see if that is possible, as well as inspections from the U.S. side, but still plenty of questions on what exactly that would look like. The U.S. is hoping to have influence over the Saudi enrichment program to bring in American companies into that country and prevent it at the same time by having that oversight from using that nuclear enrichment to build a nuclear bomb. The reporting says that this will go to review to Congress in the coming days, but it is unlikely that they will have the numbers to reject it, as that would require a 2/3 vote to potentially reject this deal reached by the president.
Interesting stuff. Aaron Navarro, we'll stay tuned on that. Thank you so much.